signature and the inscription that he wrote to a more beautiful or whatever woman, young girl, I could not say Merry Christmas, written by Roy Moore, according to this expert.
Beverly, last word.
Yes. Yes.
Case closed for you.
No.
So in other words, you're still hoping for an investigation. You still want Roy Moore to.
I'm demanding one.
And she should have her reputation back. To accuse her of forgery, that's a crime. That is a defamation. And Beverly is one of the more honest people you will ever meet in your life, and she deserves her reputation back.
Beverly Nelson, we appreciate you being here. Gloria Allred, thank you very much. We'll see what happens next,
Thank you.
ladies.
Thank you for having me. Thank
Chris.
you.
All right, up next, an Arctic blast is gripping the Northeast. Who's going to get the white stuff? Chad Myers has the forecast. Next.
New Year's Eve Live with Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen, only on CNN.
The perfect gift sale at Joseph A. Bank. All executive suits $199. All dress shirts 2 for $89. Plus, buy one get one free on almost everything in store. The perfect gift sale, only at Joseph A. Bank.
Ah, the age of mastery. A realm of skill and wisdom that only the experienced may enter. Life has taught you well, and now nothing surprises
will feel like over the next 3 days. And even the afternoon high, Chris, won't get much above 20 in that feels like category. The wind is just blowing right through you today. Now, there'll be snow in Toledo and Detroit and Youngstown and Delaware, Water Gap, State College and the like. But for New York, I think you probably only get 1 to 2 inches of snow by morning. Now, if that's a train, no train decision for you, I think tomorrow's a train day because there will be slick spots all across the Northeast. Chris.
Chad Myers, appreciate the information as always.
You bet.
Olympic skier Lindsey Vonn in the news, and not for good reason. She's taken a lot of heat for talking politics on television. Coy Wire has more in the Bleacher Report. What do we know, my friend?
You're familiar with that, Chris Cuomo, I'm quite sure. Last week, Vonn told CNN she's representing the people of the United States, not the president, at February's Winter Games. And if invited to a President Trump White House, she would not go. This Bleacher Report presented by the new 2018 Ford F-150. Vonn wrote yesterday that she's receiving comments like, quote, "People are hoping I break my neck," unquote. This is what the gold medalist posted to her 1.1 million Instagram followers. She then said that the comments opened up her eyes as to how divided we are right now. The NFL playoffs may have gotten just a bit more exciting as Green Bay Packers fans rejoice. Aaron Rodgers, medically cleared to play again, this just 8 weeks after suffering a broken collarbone that was repaired with 13 screws. He took to social media last night, posting this picture of himself in the hospital, saying it's been a long road from that day to this. The Packers still alive in the playoff hunt, so their postseason hopes may literally rest on Aaron Rodgers' shoulder. Guys?
All right, Coy, appreciate it, brother. Be well. Alabama's special election, what a shocker. But Roy Moore not yet conceding. Is the election official? The man in charge is Alabama's Secretary of State. Guess what? He's on New Day Live right after the break.
Bleacher Report Update is brought to you by the 2018 Ford F-150. It doesn't just raise the bar, it is the bar. Follow the NFL news stream on Bleacher Report's Team Stream app to see the standouts named to the Built Ford Tough Offensive Line of the Week.
Look, there's no law that says your truck can only haul gravel. Introducing the new 2018 Ford F-150 with best in class towing, best-in-class payload, and best-in-class torque. The F-150 lineup has the capability to get big things to big places big time. So bring out
Wakey, wakey, rise and shine! How are you? Well, watch this. I pop that in there, press brew, that's it.
So rich.
I love it. That's why you should be a Keurig man!
Full-bodied.
Are you sure you're describing the coffee and not me?
The Shape of Water is one of AFI's top 10 movies of the year.
He sees me for what I am, as I am.
Nominated for a record 14 Critics' Choice Awards, and now it's been nominated for 7 Golden Globe Awards.
I can either save him or let him die.
Including Best Picture of the Year. The Shape of Water, rated R. Now playing in select theaters.
Soft. Softer. And the world's softest ever. Introducing the world's softest pajamas from Pajamagram. What makes these pajamas the world's softest? The fleece lining is carefully brushed, which makes it both soft and warm, while the knit on the outside is silky smooth. She'll love the way the world's softest pajamas look and feel, and so will you. You can order these pajamas now in time for Christmas. And every package comes already wrapped, so you don't have to do another thing. And when she's happy, you're happy too. So go ahead and spoil her. Guys, give the gift that keeps on giving. Softness, comfort, and relaxation. Call or go online now at Pajamagram.com to order the world's softest pajamas today. Every order comes with free gift packaging and a personalized gift card. Delivery is guaranteed by Christmas. So order now at Pajamagram.com.
She's nationally recognized for her compassion and care. He spent decades fighting to give families a second chance. But to help others, they first had to protect themselves.
I have AFib. Even for a nurse, it's complicated, and it puts me at a higher risk of stroke.
That would be devastating. I had to learn all I could to help protect myself.
Once I got the facts, my doctor and I chose Xarelto.
Xarelto, to help keep me protected.
Once daily Xarelto, a latest generation blood thinner, significantly lowers the risk of stroke in people with AFib not caused by a heart valve problem. It has similar effectiveness to warfarin.
Xarelto works differently.
Warfarin interferes with at least 6 blood clotting factors. Xarelto is selective, targeting just one critical factor, interacting with less of your body's natural blood clotting function. For AFib patients well managed on warfarin, there is limited information on how Xarelto compares in reducing the risk of stroke. Don't stop taking Xarelto without talking to your doctor, as this may increase risk of stroke. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. It may increase your risk of bleeding if you take certain medicines. Xarelto can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Get help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling. If you've had spinal anesthesia, watch for back pain or any nerve or muscle-related signs or symptoms. Do not take Xarelto if you have an artificial heart valve or abnormal bleeding. Tell your doctor before all planned medical or dental procedures and before starting Xarelto about any conditions such as kidney, liver, or bleeding problems.
It's important to learn all you can
To help protect yourself from a stroke.
Talk to your doctor about Xarelto. There's more to know.
We have come so far, and the people of Alabama have spoken.
The reckoning has continued. Any Republican should have won that seat by double digits.
It's not over, and it's going to take some time.
Working the African-American communities very, very hard, and that turnout made the difference.
The president needs to be on notice. Donald Trump tried to rescue a campaign that was doomed.
Steve Bannon put himself in a position to be kingmaker. He lost.
The United States Senate is in play in 2018.
I see it as a sexist smear. It's not going to silence me.
I think only if your mind is in the gutter would you have read it that way.
This guy is basically like a 7th grader, and you see that come out in his words and his tweets.
This is New Day with Chris Cuomo and Allison Camerata.
Good morning. Welcome to your new day. It is Wednesday, December 13th, 8 o'clock in the East, and a stunning setback for President Trump and the GOP. Voters in Alabama electing a Democrat, Doug Jones, becoming the new U.S. Senator in a deeply red state.
Jones defeating GOP candidate Roy Moore. President Trump had campaigned for Moore, but now claims he knew Moore would lose. But the president did post a rare conciliatory tweet congratulating Doug Jones. Still, Roy Moore refuses to concede, even though Jones is clearly the winner.
All right, so how clear is it? Let's bring in Alabama's Secretary of State, John Merrill. Thank you for joining us, sir. We know you had a very long night. Is it over?
Well, Chris, I know a lot of people would say it's never over till it's over, but the margin of victory for Doug Jones at this particular time looks like a very difficult amount of votes to overcome, as the remaining votes that are out there to be counted next week begin to be considered at the local level.
So what is the actual rule? I know that the state has standards for automatic recount versus an optional recount. What are the rules?
Yes, sir. Chris, actually, the recount cannot occur until after certification occurs. The certification will occur sometime between the 26th of December, but no later than the 3rd of January. Now, if the margin between the two candidates is less than half of 1%, an automatic kick-in provision will an automatic recount provision will kick in. But an on-demand recount is also available by either campaign or anyone with standing in the state of Alabama.
But then you'd have to pay for it, right? It becomes a financial obligation there. It's not on the state to do it. What is your sense? Can you give us a
percentage?
Sir, if
it's automatic, the state will pay for it.
Oh, the state will pay for it.
If it's automatic, the state will pay for it. But the state will pay for it if it's automatic. But if it's not automatic and if it's on demand by either one of the candidates, they have to pay for it. Yes,
okay.
Sir.
What is your guess in terms of a percentage chance that this race winds up being automatically state recounted?
Well, Chris, the numbers that we saw last night had a margin of 1.5%,
right?
Not less than half of 1%.
Right.
So there's a significant difference in those numbers right now. But time will tell as the numbers continue to come in and are verified through provisional ballots, UOCAVA ballots, which are military and overseas ballots, and then the write-in margin that will begin being vetted today in each one of the 67 counties throughout our state.
Roy Moore has not yet conceded. Is that relevant?
Well, I'm sure it's relevant to them, and I'm sure it's relevant to others, but I don't think it's relevant to Doug Jones today. I think that's something that will get additional attention as time continues to move forward.
What's your sense of why Doug Jones won?
Well, I think a lot of people in our state were very discouraged about information from the allegations that were introduced. I think there's a lot of things that are being considered throughout our state and our nation in regard to the administration and things that are going on in Washington and throughout the world. I think the people of Alabama wanted to make sure that their voice was heard and that their votes were counted, and that's the reason they voted in a record number in this special election that was really unprecedented in the history of our state. And Chris, as you know, this race received more media coverage than any race in the history of Alabama.
Did you support Roy Moore?
I voted for Judge Moore, and that's been well documented and well recorded.
Yeah, I know. But I'm saying you supported him despite the allegations.
Yes,
so does that mean you don't believe the women?
No. It means I voted for Judge Moore, and I stated the reasons that I voted for Judge Moore. But Judge Moore is not the victor in this campaign.
Right. But this, as you said, is a referendum. It was about more than just two choices. It was about decency. It was about what is the bottom of what we'll accept in terms of respect toward women. And I want to know, what is your position
Chris, I think
today?
it was about a number of issues, absolutely. And I think one of the things that's very important to remember is that there were so many things that were introduced. And I think that's one of the reasons that Judge Moore's support was as strong as it was, considering everything that was introduced throughout the campaign, especially in the last month of the campaign. People made votes for Judge Moore as the Republican nominee because of issues related to the Supreme Court, because of issues related to tax reform. And so there are a number of things like that that had to be considered, as were considered by me when I decided how to cast my ballot for the Republican nominee.
Right. I'm just saying now this is a period of reflection. People are trying to figure out why it came out the way it did. How did you reconcile voting for Roy Moore with the information that came out from those women and the seriousness of the allegations?
Well, Chris, like I said before, this campaign was not about me. This election was not about me. It was not about my vote. It was about the 1.3 million people in Alabama that decided that they wanted to participate in the electoral process in record numbers and set a new standard, and today a new day for Alabama as they move forward and send Doug Jones apparently to the U.S. Senate.
Well, it can be about them today, but if you decide to run for that seat in 2020, which some speculate you might, that you would be a strong candidate, you're going to have to answer for why you voted for Roy Moore and what does that mean about whether or not you believe the women who are the accusers. It'll come back.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me as a guest on your show this morning.
Mr. Secretary of State, we look forward to the certification, and I appreciate you being on New Day.
Yes, sir.
Be well. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Allison.
Okay,
Yes,
Chris, let's bring in our CNN political analysts to discuss this. We have John Avlon and reporter and editor at large for CNN Politics, Chris Cillizza.
See that? You see that head action that was going on there when I was asking that question?
I now have a great way to get out of questions I don't want to answer. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yes. It's even better if you go like this a little bit, like.
You're breaking up. I'm going through a tunnel.
Okay, back to the story of the day. What is the big picture here of Roy Moore's loss, Doug Jones's win?
Look, this is a roll tide from Virginia through Alabama last night. This is a revolution in terms of the conventional wisdom of politics. You know, a lot of Washington analysts just thought, even though Roy Moore was an extreme candidate, even though the allegations that the gravity of would take hold with red state conservatism, what I think we saw was two things. First of all, there is such a thing as too extreme in American politics still. That's the good news, folks, because that's been in real question. And as Chris documented, and as we've talked about, this isn't just about those allegations, women. It's about Roy Moore's overall profile. And he always had problems winning over suburban districts. And that was definitely true last night. If you look at the demographic break in the deeper divisions in American politics, they're between urban and rural. Yeah, that's true. But suburban is always the swing, and suburban swung hard against Roy Moore last night.
Yeah, I think that's right. I also, just one other thing to add, John's right, base excitement. And then this matters to 2018. The Democratic base, if you told me that the African-American percentage of the vote would be higher than it was in 2012 for Barack Obama in Alabama, and the percentage, they both won it by 91 or 92 points, for a guy, Doug Jones, who candidly no one knew 2 months ago, is stunning. I mean, that's a lot about Roy Moore. It's a lot about Donald Trump. And I think credit to Doug Jones, and he had a civil rights background, so not out of the question. But the Democratic base, and we saw this in Virginia, is hugely passionate and hugely empowered. The Republican base, the Trump base that elected Donald Trump is much less so. You're seeing more erosion among suburban whites. You're seeing more erosion among people with college educations. These people are no longer in the hold your nose and vote for the Republican category, even in Alabama. And look, yes, Roy Moore, what you'll hear today is Roy Moore's a one-off. There's not Roy Moores in every state. This is not a broad-scale problem. But Alabama is one of the 5 or 6 most conservative states in the country. Donald Trump won there 13 months ago by 28 points.
2-1.
You can argue about Virginia. Is Virginia moving, is Virginia more of a Democratic state? Yeah. No one would think, even after this election, that Alabama's a swing state or a lean Democratic state. That a Democrat got elected there is remarkable.
But isn't this election a little too weird and outrageous to be able to translate or apply to midterms?
Insane is the new normal in America in 2017, and this was an insane election, and what an exciting election night. This is not going to be replicatable in, say, Mississippi. This is not going to be other states in the Deep South, but it does show that core of independents and American voters that will, even under extreme, maybe only under extreme circumstances, vote for the person, not the party. Look, Ed Gillespie narrowly staved off a challenge from the far right. But he was not able to overcome that enthusiasm, or perhaps the opposite enthusiasm, the anger among Democrats, the motivation they feel to send a message to
Donald Trump. But how much of a one-off is Roy Moore if you look at it through the lens of what the proposition of Donald Trump is for a lot of voters in this country? I mean, look at what just happened with his Gillibrand tweet. The idea is, well, how low is too low? At what point will decency have to become a standard that people endorse, either by not coming out to vote for their own party, which we saw last night, huge registration advantage for the Republicans in Alabama. They didn't come out the way the Democrats did, or that they'll come out actively to vote against you because they find you indecent.
And you're right, Allison, absolutely, about Alabama, and so is John. I mean, I don't think a Democrat's going to win in Mississippi, but the lesson that you don't take, this is not going to be a facsimile in every state, but the lesson you take is Donald Trump and Trumpism, that sort of moral vacuum. Who can say who's right? Who can say what facts are? That is a massive motivator for Democrats. And I think you see it more now. The idea of Trump as a candidate, he probably won't win. Now that he is president, I think Democrats say, okay, well, now is the time we need to vote.
And look, I mean, it shouldn't take sort of crises to wake people up. Democracy's a responsibility we need to tend to every day. But it also shows the divisions in the Republican Party are fundamental. That Bannon wing of the party, who basically, backed Donald Trump and really drove this election hard, all the political capital against the quote-unquote establishment, the governing group inside the Republican Party, a major repudiation for that effort, because this is a seat Republicans never should have lost. No. And if you add Virginia and this, you start to look at a fact pattern which could have real implications for 2018 in the Trump presidency.
And if you think, to the Bannon point, if you think Steve Bannon will go away because Roy Moore lost, you do not know Steve Bannon.
Well,
they have and will continue to blame this on Mitch McConnell, on insufficient support by Dick Shelby. They will not go away. Remember, Steve Bannon said he was going to try to beat every single Republican Senate incumbent except for Ted Cruz. He beat Luther Strange, cutting off your nose to spite your face.
And he could end up beating the Republican Party into a minority state.
Yes, but he will not go away. That fight will not go away. And Donald Trump is not going to be the guy who says, I was wrong. I need to reform. I'm looking at his tweets this morning. He literally said I was right.
Right, but I mean, tell that to Congressman Peter King, who we have coming up, who says that it is time. I mean, he will pull up his tweet. He has said, after Alabama disaster, GOP must do the right thing and dump Steve Bannon. His act is tired, inane, and morally vacuous. If we are to make America great again for all Americans, Bannon must go, and go now. It's just unclear where he wants Bannon to go.
Right,
he's actually not in government anymore.
He's not an elected.
And it's not going to happen. Donald Trump sees a kindred spirit in Steve Bannon, a guy who charges the barricades, a guy who everyone says writes off, says doesn't know what he's talking about, but is really right. Even with this Moore thing, Trump will say it's really all about, I knew what was going on. Donald Trump will continue to listen to Steve Bannon, and as long as that happens, as long as he takes his phone call, he's not going away, no matter what P. King wants.
If Bannonism can't win in Alabama, you got a fundamental problem. But the problem is, as Allison says, he's not in the White House. What are you going to kick him out of?
Right.
There's a core constituency in the Republican Party that is a Trump, Bannon, Moore constituency. The problem is that seems to be incompatible with winning most majority elections.
Right, but there's a weave
Trump's
here, right?
accepted.
And we'll play with this with Congressman King when he's on the show. Debbie Dingell was on Democrat. Good interview Allison did with her. There is real discontent. There is real disconnect. There is real disaffection. Me Too matters. Decency towards women and minorities matters. But my wallet matters a lot as well. Flint, Michigan, I was just out there. They're still hit hard. That's not, take Bannon out of it. That's a raw populism that matters. That's something that has to be addressed by this agenda. And that's why this vote margin now that just got narrowed in the Senate is even more relevant.
Absolutely. And look, and Trump and Bannon had a core understanding of that deep angst by folks in the upper industrial Midwest who have felt squeezed, left behind, marginalized by identity politics, and receptive to culture wars. So Democrats are going to have to come up with a response to reconnect to the working class in the upper Midwest, those folks who felt squeezed, without moving too far to the left in a way that alienates them. And that Democratic Civil War, don't underestimate that. It's just there's going to be unity in the face of trying to topple Trump. And you've seen in the both case of Virginia and Alabama, those folks on the far left of the party who were saying these people aren't pure enough, that their voices have been silenced, or at least put in perspective.
Does it, to end on, does this change anything? Does this change the tax vote? Does this change any of
No, it will not change the tax vote at all. I mean, first of all, Doug Jones won't be a senator until after we expect the tax vote
and we think
to
that they
happen.
really will have cobbled it together by then. But
I do, because I think they believe it has to happen. They believe that if they do not do this, they will lose sweepingly in 2018. Candidly, if you look at Alabama and the disparity between base motivation, they may lose overwhelmingly no matter what they do, but they believe. So that will happen. Will it change anything? I think you will see every Republican elected official wake up with a renewed sense of fear about this coming election, because John makes a point, and I think you cannot underestimate it. Yes, Roy Moore is a unique character, but if a Democrat can win in a state that Donald Trump, a federal election, right, which are always nationalized, it's not a governor's race, it's not for attorney general in the state. If you can win a federal election in a state Donald Trump won by 28 points 13 months later, it is any member of Congress who sits in any district has to pay attention. Doesn't mean you will lose, but it means you are now on watch much more so than you would have ever thought you could be.
Chris Cillizza, John Avlon, thank you both very much. So what will Democrats learn from Doug Jones's victory in the deeply red Alabama? What lessons do they glean going into the midterm elections? We'll ask the chairman of the Democratic National Committee next.
My experience with USAA has been excellent. They always refer to me as Master Sergeant. They really appreciate the military family, and it really shows.
We've got auto insurance, homeowners insurance.
I had an accident with the vehicle. I actually called USAA before we called the police. USAA was very hands-on, very quick, very prompt. I feel like we're being handled as people that actually have a genuine need. We're the Weber family, and we're USAA members for life.
USAA. Get your insurance quote today.
Progress is an unstoppable force. The Season of Audi sales event is here. Audi will cover your first month's lease payment on select models during the Season of Audi sales event.
I've always been a morning person. It's when I ponder the deep questions, like which came first, the egg or the chicken? How would I know? But I do know that first, Qualcomm connected the phone to the internet. And now, everyone is posting and scrolling and sharing everything. Yes, sir. Qualcomm invents. Then the world innovates on top of their breakthroughs. Invention comes first. And a whole lot of it starts at Qualcomm.
Coney Island, 1950s.
I know where the bodies are buried.
How long is she gonna stay here?
Mind your own business.
You're gonna be crushed when she's gone. Everything's coming apart.
You look a little crazy.
Got myself into a bad
situation.
Wonder Wheel, rated PG-13, everywhere Friday.
We're on a mission to show drip coffee drinkers it's time to wake up to Keurig.
Wakey, wakey, rise and shine.
How are you?
Well, watch this. I pop that in there, press brew, that's it.
So rich.
I love it.
That's why you should be a Keurig man.
Full-bodied.
Are you sure you're describing the coffee and not me?
As a mother of 3, I've seen the positive impact sports have on kids. So this holiday at Dick's Sporting Goods, we're making it easier than ever to give the gift of sport. We're opening more registers to get you out faster. Plus, enjoy free shipping, in-store pickup, and easy in-store returns. And get the best price every day with our best price guarantee. This season, give a gift that truly matters. Give the gift of sport.
Mom's got this cold. Hashtag stuffy nose, hashtag no sleep, hashtag mouth breather.
Just put on a Breathe Right strip. It instantly opens your nose up to 38% more than cold medicine alone. Go to breatheright.com today to request a free sample.
Booking a flight at the last minute doesn't have to be expensive. Just go to Priceline. It's the best place to book a flight a few days before my trip and still save up to 40%. Just tap and go. For the best savings on flights, go to Priceline.
Messy splatters, exploding sauce, mystery goo you can't wipe off. Yuck! Stop cooking without a cover. Get Hover Cover, the revolutionary splatter guard that uses 4 microwave-safe polymer-encased magnets, so it's always ready to use. Just pull down to cover. When you're done, lift and let it hover. It's perfect for mess-free after-school snacks. Hover Cover is the best way to make your microwave behave. Just pull to cover, then lift to hover. Hover Cover is available online and at retailers near you.
Challenge to my future colleagues in Washington. Don't wait on me. Take this election where the people of Alabama said, we want to get something done. We want you to find common ground. We want you to talk.
All right, that was Alabama Senator-elect, I should say, Doug Jones, encouraging fellow Democrats to follow his lead. The Democrat edged out embattled Republican Roy Moore to win Alabama's open Senate seat. That's the first time a Democrat has won in the deep red state in decades. Joining us now is Chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Tom Perez. Tom, great to see you this morning.
Good to be with you, Allison.
At what time did you learn the election results last night?
Oh, it was about 10:15. I had spoken to Doug earlier that evening. The returns weren't final yet. It was a jump ball, and he had a lot of hope. I've known him for 20 years, and I couldn't be happier for the man because he's the real deal. He's a person of faith who puts his faith in action every day. He wants to help folks in Alabama get better jobs, get access to health care. It's all about the kitchen table issues. That's what he's about, and I couldn't be happier for him.
And when you learned of his victory, on a scale of 1 to 10 on the shock spectrum, 10 being the most shocked, where were you?
I was thrilled for him.
But I mean, were you surprised? But honestly, I mean, did you see this coming?
Well, I mean, you looked at the polling, and we knew we had a fighting chance. It was a jump ball. Doug was the underdog, let's be honest. There's no doubt about it. But the reason Doug won is because he organized. He organized everywhere across the state. You look at Lee County, Alabama, named after Robert E. Lee. Trump won that county by 24 points a year ago, and Doug won by 17 points yesterday. You look at the African-American turnout. African-Americans have been the backbone of this Democratic Party. 98% of African-American women supported Doug. And when you lead with your values and you organize early and organize everywhere, and the DNC got in early, we got in quietly, but we got in unmistakably. That's how you win. And it's not just Alabama, it's Virginia, and you see New Jersey and a bunch of other mayor's races. This is undeniably a trend.
But it sounds as though you think that you can glean some lessons for the Democrats from this Alabama race that you can then